Click the links to join the channel here over us. Subscribe to doing the Odyssey and the Rumble. So, angering Twitter. Velma's Scooby-Doo's Mindy Kaling's Velma angering Twitter. Really? Sort of? No, not really. It's just that the dopamine release for the Twitter crowd. Twitter is a really dark type of social media. And you go, but we're on YouTube or Odyssey and Rumble listening to this right now. It's different because it's not the immediate dopamine response of going through a list of tweets and just liking. You're getting a little boost from that, and then from the other side of the equation is when you make a post and it's getting those likes, you're getting the boost from that. It's a and then where the thing is, video format is way spread out. It's not in the same addictive potential, and like if you know the difference, you've seen it. It's just a whole different vibe. That's why like people in the video formats are way more relaxed. But Twitter is, you see the people who are on Twitter and they're just angry and they're worked up over everything. And if you're not on Twitter, you don't even know what they're worked up about, and everything is suddenly problematic. And it's usually someone who's kind of younger, with dyed hair and wants attention, and they're virtue signaling over everything to be looking for things to be outraged, and they're always there's these things where like they're outraged on behalf of other people, like my ex friends, my friends of some group that is in the Frankfurt School oppression hierarchy, and you get outraged on their behalf, and you look at them like, no, you're not. I know you're sitting there like in your PJs drinking a cup of coffee. It's like you're not outraged, and the person themselves wouldn't be outraged because Twitter, it's not real, but it's not as real as the Twitter people seem to think it is. So they don't have like none of these people have an issue. No one in the mainstream media has mentioned the anti-white racism in the show at all, because even people who are aware of it know that they're not allowed to mention that in the mainstream media. And the thing is, you start thinking about mainstream media, and you realize, oh, I mean, talking about like the digital internet kind of footprint. 99% of it is left of center, like obviously clearly left of center bias, and the right of center pop culture media, there's very little, and it's not getting a whole lot of return on the search engines because of Google, if you're using that, or even DuckDuckGo. It's like DuckDuckGo is not any better than Google. It might have been at one time, but the CEO of DuckDuckGo, Weinberg, is finally come out and said, yeah, we need to be more like Google to control search results and give people what we need, that we need to educate them. I was like, the whole point of DuckDuckGo was to escape all that. I mean, the whole point of YouTube was to have your video hosting platform. Oh, thank God Google bought it out so they can completely control the narrative. Got off track a little bit. Anyway, and everyone hates Mindy. Oh, my point was is like nobody is mentioning the very obvious elephant in the room. It's like, so how come this racism against people of European descent is acceptable to you? I mean, you call out all this other stuff, but the people who just happen to be from from the various diverse European countries, the blue and green eyed people, your hatred about them just kind of gets overlooked. It's like all it takes is someone to bring it out into the mainstream. But it's like as long as these people have control of the mainstream, you're not going to get that message out. Now the white pill is we do have the alt media, and even Twitter now. Twitter is a whole different beast in a way that it wasn't a couple months ago before Elon got on there. But I mean, there's like Rumble has been amazing lately. I kind of kicked myself for not getting on Rumble earlier. That was pretty dumb. So everyone hates Mindy Kaling, and the sickle cell joke is a bridge too far for them. But the underage jokes about the prurient interest of teenagers, they're in like shower scenes, and I never even made the connection until someone pointed out it because it's like a cartoon. I didn't really make the connection. Then someone goes, oh no, they're in high school. They're not like in college. They're not adults. They're in high school, so they're high school age. And I didn't even think about that. Like, oh, that's kind of weird. Yeah, that's really weird. The sexualization of people who are under, and it's a weird thing that the split for the left and the right. It's like a right wing value now is protecting kids. If I was on the left, I would want to take that. I would want to take that argument back real quick and get that on our side. But like the left is kind of weird. Anyway, so the underage sex and the anti-white racism is fine, but a joke about sickle cell, which is like, it's not that, it wasn't that serious. So obviously I focus on the anti-white stuff. That's kind of my axe to grind, and partially because like nobody else mentions, I feel like, oh well, somebody has to do it. And the other thing is there are more issues in the show. It sucked for a lot of reasons. the overly meta, self-aware jokes, making fun of the old show, the old Scooby-Doo show, which had, was gone through the years, different seasons, and they later made a movie out of it in 2000, and then a sequel to it, and they were fine. You're making fun of these old shows, the old Scooby-Doo shows, which I think was from the 60s. I went back on Odyssey, and someone put a bunch of the old episodes up there. They are really fantastic for what they are. A group of friends all getting together to solve these kind of mystery puzzles. I mean, it's really, not to sound too lighthearted and frivolous, it's a really uplifting type of show. It's a group of people who are different, come from different backgrounds, but they all get together. Yes, the red and blonde haired characters, they are diverse from each other, and the Great Dane, of course. They all get together and they solve these mysteries, but they're just kind, good-hearted people, and you really need more of that in the mainstream media, and instead we get something like Velma, which is this hatred, this is toxic left-wing racist hatred diatribe coming from Mindy Kaling, who oddly enough is married to a Mr. Blue-eyed man himself. I look at her, I look at the kind of weird sexualization and fetishization she has of these the Fred character, the blonde character in the show. Then I look at her and her husband. I'm like, okay, this is just getting weird. Can you just stop this? I mean, this is really really on the face, and nobody's mentioning it. Anyway, so it doesn't make fun. It doesn't make sense when you make fun of the old show, because the old show was good and very good. Now that I went back and rewatched it, this new show is bad. It's like covering a song and doing it worse. It doesn't make sense if you can't at least improve on it. What was that? The GNR did a Beatles cover, and I know people consider the Beatles as sacred, and for sure, or maybe it was a Wings song, Paul McCartney, I think, "Live and Let Die." But they turned it up to 11, and they did like a whole production of it, and they just did a really good version. I'm not saying it's better than the original, but they did a really good version. Molly Crew did a version of "Smoking in the Boys' Room," which was not a very good song to start with. It didn't have a whole lot of energy, and they covered that, and they did a really solid version of it. And then plus they did a music video they had a lot of fun with. The 80s were the 80s were a lot of fun. It was it a better time? Oh God, yeah, it was a better time. Yeah, every time it's weird how every decade in the past is better. It's like, so what's the inverse of that? Oh, the future's getting worse. Oh, what an incredibly dark thing to say. Yeah, unfortunately, it's the reality. So the old show is a classic, and this is just cultural Marxism. Plus, they're pushing this obvious BLT agenda, which is just cringy by now. It's like stereotype after stereotype, and you're not bringing anything new to the table. That's the whole thing about the show, is there's nothing new to the table. There's just little things to complain about. And then they're crafting this narrative where the only joke can be against blonde-haired, blue-eyed, people out in Nordic central casting, or there's that area where they're, the only acceptable punchline in Bolshevik Hollywood is against people who have blonde or red hair. Well, that's not funny. It's, if you're a child, maybe if you're under 12, maybe that would fool you for a while, where you're reading these comics, you don't notice, oh, hey, all the bad guys are blonde haired or green eyed or blue eyed. I just noticed that. And you're talking to other kids that you're 10 years old. It's like, oh, that is kind of weird. Once you notice the stuff, you put on the sunglasses, it takes all the magic out of all these kind of stories, because then you can see into the matrix a little bit. And you're like, oh, these are very bad people. Who are these people telling these stories? Oh, they're very toxic left wing people. I think it also makes the story boring. I mean, when you're an adult, you see this stuff instantly, because there's no willing suspension of disbelief. When you see brown and fair characters juxtaposed on screen, one is the protagonist and one is the antagonist. It's like that with comics, with movies, with shows, with everything, obviously because of cultural Bolshevism. I've been saying this for years, that comedy cannot survive the Frankfurt School censors. Globalists cannot allow free speech. Otherwise, you'll talk or you joke about the toxic left-wing ideas. It's why the right can meme and the left wing really cannot meme. Every once in a while, a left wing meme will pop up on Twitter. They'll usually do a ripoff of Stone Toss, and Stone Toss has got like a couple of word balloons and just a couple of lines to get his point across. And the left wing interpretation of it is all word balloons. It's like that woman from Game of Thrones she wrote the 3-series comic book called Moms. And you open up and flip through the comics, like, what's the word count of this comic book? Because it's got to be the highest I've ever seen. It's more like a picture novel. This is insane. Everything's feminism, and all about like female stuff for the whole comic book, and about the patriarchy. And oddly enough, the bad the antagonists in that comic were blonde haired, blue eyed woman, and then blonde and red haired men were the bad people in that comic book, which seems odd. Anyway, so the only acceptable people to be degraded and dehumanized in Velma are people quinkadinkly of European descent. That's just racist hatred, and you gotta get on social media, and you can't let this stuff pass. You gotta make a point of calling it out. So Mindy Kaling is bombing because there is a black Twitter, and then actually there's kind of a growing people of the light Twitter also, which is kind of loosely starting to coalesce. But there's not an Indian Twitter, and there isn't really a general Pox Twitter because there's kind of too much infighting. So if she was black, the show would get better ratings and way more positive buzz, because the reviewers would be scared to give it a bad rating. That Wakanda movie that came out a few years ago, rest in peace. Guy died of cancer at 43. That sucks. But it got almost a perfect score, and it was just not that good a movie. I mean, no superhero movie is that good of a movie to get 95%. Yeah, press F to doubt on that. It's like you got that score because of political things, obviously, what was going on in the country at the time. But Mindy doesn't have that kind of support behind her. In fact, it kind of seems that nobody is on board with her. The Pox, as well as the people of the light, she just keeps whining about everyone's istophobic. But she's wealthy, and she's from one of the wealthiest communities in America. So people, I mean, her complaints don't make sense. It's like she has the power and the privilege. So people aren't really on board with her bitching and moaning. The show is horrible, and people don't have a social media political reason to kind of pretend to like it. Like when the Disney Star Wars trilogy came out, that became a left versus right schism, and the left versus right stuff happens all the time. Like when Birds of Prey came out, the Twitter kids were like, "Oh, we have to go see Birds of Prey because we have to support, I don't know, women in movies or something." It's like nobody saw it. And you don't have to, like, you're supporting $1 billion Warner Brothers to try to own the right wing. It's like, but you still didn't see it. You wanted other people to see it. It's like, you're not going to pay $15 to virtue signal to see something that is going to be very much not worth $15. Anyway, so Mindy isn't anything important. I mean, she doesn't have those like marginalized, oppressed, and all the other Marxist buzzwords, all that kind of nonsense. She's just a privileged, spoiled Hollywood parasite who was expecting this. I'm sure she expected this to be a solid hit. Maybe not, knock it out of the park, but I'm sure she expected this to land on all eight cylinders. So it probably surprised her that the show bombed, and it kept on bombing. She might have assumed at first it was trolls, because I think that's what people say all the time. It's like everything, whenever it's a left wing, cultural Bolshevik production, it's like, oh well, the trolls didn't like it. They review bombed it. Well, then why didn't you guys love bomb it? But the scores never recovered, and the paid reviewers also said it sucked. It's sitting at a 42% right now from them. So the thing is, I think in her mind, she sees herself as a Pox Wox and was kind of expecting Twitter to get behind her based on that. They definitely didn't. It's the meme of the smiling face over the crying face. And she's going to fail upward. The show will get another season based on the watch time. Probably. I mean, there might be some people behind the scene who are looking at this and going, yeah, it got good watch time, but it's like Captain Marvel with Brie Larson. It made $1 billion, but it was also the prequel to the biggest movie in American film history, that Avenger movie that did billions of dollars. So people know that the Captain Marvel sequel. It's like, gee, it's been like what 3-4 years. Where's the sequel? Because the Warner Brother or no, Disney Marvel's not stupid. They know that was not likely to equal those kind of times. Anyway, so the thing is, the show's probably going to get another season based on the watch time, because people who are already subscribed are kind of cringe watching it. So I have to assume that nobody signed up to watch it, and that's the only thing that matters. Because it helps the bottom line. And as to the sickle cell joke, either everything is on the table or nothing is. It doesn't make sense to protect one group of people and then spread hatred against another group of people. The Frankfurt School crowd pushes this anti-white racism all the time, and these brainwashed Bolsheviks are fine with it. Mostly because up until recently, European people didn't speak out against this anti-European hatred. They're just the nicest people on earth. But they're finally starting to awaken and call out this hatred. And Elon Musk buying Twitter has made that a lot easier. Plus, Rumble is really popping. There's a lot of stuff going on Rumble. That is, there are live streams on Rumble that are not on YouTube, even if the people are also on both platforms. But they know, like, there's no point in doing something on a video on YouTube if it's just going to get you kicked off. Or, same with a live stream. So like they're not even bothering with this, putting this stuff on YouTube. And then some shows like Russell Brand and Salty, they do the first hour on YouTube, and then they do the second hour or two on Rumble and Odyssey just to force people over there. And I love Odyssey; it's a great platform, but Rumble has got way more just of the normie, middle of the political bell curve crowd. So there's like all the Alex Jones type of stuff, and there's further right stuff too for sure. But there's all that middle of the roads, and the thing is, there's left wingers on there too. I slept on Rumble, but it's kind of shaping up to be, if anything, is going to be a YouTube replacement. Um, it looks like Rumble is number one and Odyssey is coming up number two. The difference is Rumble has to go through the app stores, Google and Apple, though you can use the web browser to access it. And where Odyssey kind of just like doesn't care about that so much. It's like it was dedicated to being a free speech site. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. You can check out Velma on online, right? You know what I'm saying? And you can join the channel here, become a member, or over on subscribe. Be sure to join my Rumble, and I'll see you guys all next episode.